This week we're continuing on with the series and taking a look at one face that's been voted on more than any other, Danish actor Mads Mikkelsen. In many ways, he reminds me of a more masculinized version of Cillian Murphy. He has deep-set eyes protected by a prominent brow bone with grey under-eye contour for his age. These are features linked with higher developmental testosterone maturing the face to introduce more sexual dimorphism. We prefer these features because they indicate that the body is able to withstand the increased stress testosterone places on it. It's one of the reasons why men die earlier. Their cells senesce faster due to testosterone. These eye features come about as a result of a smaller orbital opening. In the previous episode, it was mentioned that Cillian's face has larger eye openings, which creates a greater expanse of soft tissue and provides less solid support as the face ages. Hence why Cillian's eyes look gaunt and protruded as he ages, while Mads still looks the same, despite being a full decade older. The periocular fat that supports the eye region's contour shifts with age. By reducing the amount of fat needed with solid bone, the eyes stay youthful for longer. So it's really a trade-off between higher testosterone, which matures the face, but at the same time keeps it looking youthful for longer. Now, proportion-wise, without even measuring it, it's very clear that Mads' face is very symmetric and balanced. His facial thirds are near ideal, with the upper third being slightly shorter. As he ages and his hairline pushes back, this actually brings the appearance of the upper third more in line with the other two, which is why he's aged so gracefully. Generally, the people who age the best have near ideal proportion in their middle and lower thirds, so even without the hair, they still maintain harmony. Speaking of the lower third, his jaw is incredibly wide and his bigonial width, so the jaw width, is near 1-to-1 with his bizygomatic width, or his facial width. In other words, his face is about as masculine and square as one's face shape can get. Mamert's 2016 found that participants rated jaws with a bigonial width no less than 10% smaller than the face's zygomatic width as the most attractive. Mads' face falls close to 98%, with it being so far from average that his jaw can be appreciated from the front. This is what gives him his pretty boy look earlier in his youth. In terms of general proportion, his face passes all the expected measures from the medial iris to mouth, jaw inclination, and transverse proportions, which is expected because his face is very harmonious to look at. In the Cillian episode, Cillian's face didn't pass all of the proportion measures, especially the jaw and intercanthal widths, which is why Cillian's face is considered polarizing, while Mads is just conventionally handsome. Another hallmark are his incredibly prominent cheekbones. The actual part that sticks out, the zygomatic arch, is both larger than average and extends far back into his head. The way they're angled so uniquely downwards is what creates this effect, and instead of appearing soft and round, it gives him angularity and sharpness. Pair this with his otherwise very lean face in his younger years, and you get this very noticeable prominence. Also, his cheekbones start quite low. Typically, higher cheekbones are seen as more feminine, while lower ones are associated with masculinity, as they produce more square faces rather than diamond or heart-shaped ones. Cillian Murphy has a very similar midface and lower jaw structure, which is why they both look alike, with the only difference being Cillian's more rounded, feminine eyes. The last point to touch on with Mads are his lips. They're striking because his mouth is actually quite wide, which exposes more vermilion and lip volume. Vermilion is essentially the red part of the lip, and in certain scenes, the fullness of his lips are clearly seen. The mouth itself is wide because his face is wide, and so in order to maintain proportion, his mouth widens with dentofacial growth to match the medial iris position. Facial growth is a concept that was lightly touched upon in the neoteny episode of Defining Beauty. Human faces grow using a cardioid strain pattern where the front of the skull applies more pressure than the sides. This is what creates sexually dimorphic and mature faces. This mathematical function of facial growth maintains proportion from youth to maturity because it stretches features at the bottom more than those at the top. The distance between the eyes expands just a little bit from infancy to adulthood, while the size of the mouth changes drastically. This strain pattern goes past adulthood into old age, and while the rate slows down considerably, well-formed dentofacial features continue to stay proportionate with age. Hard tissue such as bone follows this predictable strain pattern, but soft tissue like fat doesn't. Forensic science isn't perfect, but it can make pretty decent guesses into how faces age in normally developed class 1 faces.